Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and trying to stay warm. Now, some of you may know this already, but February is Black History Month here in the United States. And in a normal year, without all of the complications of COVID-19, Black History Month is celebrated in a variety of ways at Church of the Resurrection, where I am the priest. We usually have guest speakers and special music throughout the month, and we have a huge Soul Food Sunday lunch the last Sunday of the month. During the month, we focus on studying the lives and contributions of various African Americans throughout our country's history and the history of the church. And one man whose legacy has left a lasting impression on the Episcopal Church in particular is a man named Absalom Jones. Absalom Jones was born a slave in colonial Delaware in 1746, before our nation was even a nation. He used the Bible to teach himself how to read. And at the age of 20, while still a slave, he married Mary King, who was also a slave. Soon after their marriage, he purchased his wife's freedom before his own so that any children that they had would be born free. Finally, at the age of 38, he was able to purchase his own freedom from slavery. Once free, he and his wife moved to Philadelphia. And in 1787, he and his friend Richard Allen established the first benevolent society for African Americans. It was called the African Free Society of Philadelphia. And the purpose was to provide assistance for the economic, educational, social, and spiritual needs of the African American community, and to help raise money to help other enslaved blacks purchase their freedom. By 1792, they had decided that they needed their own church. They wanted to affiliate with a religious denomination that would be accepting of them and allow them to govern their own congregation. They voted to join the Episcopal Church, and they asked Absalom Jones to be their leader. And he accepted their call to serve at the newly formed St. Thomas African Episcopal Church. So in 1802, at the age of, would have been 56, he was finally ordained to be a priest in the Episcopal Church, and he became the first African American priest in the Episcopal Church. Now this year, St. Thomas Church is celebrating 227 years of mission and ministry in the city of Philadelphia. It's the oldest African American mainline Protestant congregation in the United States. For more than 20 years, Absalom Jones faithfully served the people of St. Thomas as their priest. But in addition to his leadership there at St. Thomas, Jones also served as a civic leader in the city of Philadelphia. During a yellow fever epidemic in 1793, while many of the citizens of Philadelphia who could afford to had fled the city, Absalom Jones rallied the black citizens of Philadelphia to help the sick and the dying in the city. These brave and selfless men and women comforted the sick and buried the dead, sometimes at their own expense. Even though Absalom Jones and his fellow African Americans at St. Thomas were treated badly by many of the whites in Philadelphia and within their own denomination in the Episcopal Church, they were determined to live out Jesus' command to love one another, even when they didn't feel loved in return. And that doesn't mean that they weren't angry about the institution of slavery and the racism that they experienced on a daily basis, or that they didn't work continually to see slavery abolished and for equal treatment under the law. But Absalom Jones and his friends, and all the great Christian leaders of the civil rights movement who came after them, took very seriously Jesus' command to love one another and to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute you. So every year on February 13th, we remember and celebrate the Reverend Absalom Jones. We remember him not only because he was Black, not just because he was a former slave, and not only because he was the first African American priest in the Episcopal Church. We remember and celebrate Absalom Jones because of the exemplary life he lived and shared with his church, with our country, and with the world. During Black History Month, or any time really, I would encourage you to make an effort to learn more about any of the countless number of African Americans who have made so many contributions to our country's history, all around the country and right here in our city of Omaha. I hope you all have a great week. Stay safe, stay warm. God bless.